What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I'm sure most of you know by now that Boris Johnson and the Tory government plan to continue with HS2, the monumental waste of money that at current estimates is going to cost us something like £106 billion. So, far too much for a train service that I believe makes it about 20 minutes quicker to get between A and B. So, I'm sure you will all agree, a complete waste of time. But on top of that, he now also plans to revive something I discussed before the election relating to Boris's bridges. You know, Boris loves these bridges, so we'll call this Boris Bridge. The Mail Online are reporting at the moment, Boris Johnson revives £20 billion plan for bridge between Scotland and Northern Ireland. That would mirror the link between Sweden and Denmark. Boris Johnson has revived plans to build a £20 billion bridge between Scotland and Northern Ireland, with engineers looking to copy the link between Sweden and Denmark, which featured in a hit Scandi-Nor crime drama. The Prime Minister, who is keen to sanction a series of grand infrastructure projects as a legacy of his rule, is about to receive the results of a feasibility study into the construction of a combined bridge and tunnel connection at the narrowest 20-mile gap between Northern Ireland and the British mainland. And while in theory I would support something like this, because I'm all for making the UK more integrated, I feel this will just become another HS2, a complete waste of money that will run over budget, take years longer than they anticipate, and might even end up costing us another £106 billion, which I don't want, and I'm sure most of yous don't want. Much like most of us don't want HS2. One version of the plan would be modelled on the Öresund Bridge, which runs 5 miles from the Swedish coast near Malmo to an artificial island in the middle of the Öresund Strait. It then turns into a 2.5 mile tunnel to the Danish island of Amager near Copenhagen. The Öresund crossing was the setting for The Bridge, a popular BBC series starring Sophia Helin and killing Eve actor Kim Bodina as detectives investigating a gruesome murder. Mr. Johnson has refused to be dissuaded against the project by warnings about spiralling costs for the project that might be seen to take inspiration from the feats of the great Victorian engineer Isambard Kingdom Brunel. The bridge would be most likely to run between Portpatrick in Scotland and Larne in County Antrim, and engineers are understood to have come up with an idea of a bridge tunnel split as a way of dealing with Beaufort's Dyke, the UK's largest offshore dump site for conventional and chemical munitions after the Second World War. Yeah, so Boris is planning to run it through a munitions dump, yeah? Oh, that should be fun. It lies 7 miles off Portpatrick, and the Ministry of Defence estimates there are millions of tons of munitions at the bottom of the deep trench, including 14,500 tons of 5-inch artillery rockets filled with phosgene gas, in addition to 2 tons of concrete encased metal drums filled with radioactive waste which was dumped there during the 1950s. And just by that shit even being in the vicinity, absolutely any of it, this is going to cost a hell of a lot more than £20 billion, I'll tell you that right now. It'll cost them more than £20 billion, probably just avoiding all that crap that they've dumped in the ocean. Under one version of Mr. Johnson's plan, the bridge would run from the Scottish coast over the trench before becoming a tunnel for the final stretch to Northern Ireland. Local geography might dictate that 2 artificial islands would be needed to span the North Channel. So that's definitely more than £20 billion. This just keeps building up. I think £20 billion is a seriously low estimate, let me tell you that much. Although Mr. Johnson's critics have described the idea as pie in the sky and a waste of public money, the Prime Minister believes it would ease the strain on air routes between the mainland and Northern Ireland and would help cement the union. Yes, it might help cement the union, it would be a good thing for the union, but it's too expensive. Especially when you're wasting £106 billion on HS2. Like, that is going to be enough. You're not going to cancel that now, so how are you going to justify spending yet another £100 billion? Because I expect this bridge will end up costing them £100 billion. Every time the fucking government tries to build something, they always fuck it up monumentally, let's be honest. At 20 miles long, it would still be dwarfed by the Hong Kong bridge tunnel system, which traverses 30 miles of water. The structure spanning the greatest expanse of open sea is the 22.4 mile Hangzhou Bay Bridge in China. The world's longest bridge of all, again in China, is the 102 mile Danyang Kansun Grand Bridge on the Beijing-Shanghai Railway, which is a massive bridge, 102 miles, fuck me. Mr Johnson is this week expected to give the go-ahead to the UK's most high-profile infrastructure project, the HS2 rail link, and is under pressure to approve the expansion of Heathrow Airport, despite his long-stated opposition. Which, that little statement there about HS2, like I said, is another reason why this bridge shouldn't even be being considered. Because whenever the government considers something, remember that costs us money, they pay a fuck ton of people to do feasibility studies and a bunch of other crap that ends up costing us a fortune. And look, here he goes again, spend, spend, spend. But he is also keen to kickstart smaller projects, further bridges, 500,000 new homes, the reversal of cuts to rail branch lines and fleets of new electric Boris buses in parts of the country currently poorly served by public transport. Now, if they want to put some more buses in areas that could need it and more public transport for people, I'm all for that. But wasting billions or hundreds of billions on bridges and high-speed train lines that we don't really need, I am not a fan of, and I think Boris needs to fuck it off. Yes, I know you want a legacy. Getting Brexit done will be your legacy. A stupid bridge won't be nothing in comparison to getting Brexit done, you stupid bastard. Plans for a link between Scotland and Northern Ireland go back to 1869, when the Irish engineer Luke Livingston Makersey said it would tend to the consolidation of empire, so greatly desired by all lovers of order and prosperity. Yes, and I would back, in theory, a bridge going to Ireland. I would also back one going from Wales to Ireland if they could make it. But the problem is, it's too fucking expensive. This is people's taxes you're spending here. You need to be much more careful with what you're doing. Too many governments on both sides of the political debate are too free-flowing with other people's money, when they wouldn't be so generous if it was their own money being used, let's be honest. The Scottish Government has expressed scepticism about the idea, citing an obvious number of practical obstacles and challenges, and the need for a robust assessment of the costs or benefits of such a project. Yeah, they'll be opposed to it because they don't like Boris Johnson, but in reality, they would absolutely love that, because it would bring a nice little boost to the Scottish economy, the same as it would to Northern Ireland's. Work on the Willumsen Bridge started in 1995 and was completed 5 years later. It now carries more than 60,000 travellers daily, with a 4-lane road on the upper deck and 2 train tracks on the lower level. Now, let me tell you something, that took Sweden and Norway 5 years to do that. It will not take the British government 5 years to do that. It'll probably take them 50 years, the useless fucks. I mean, take a look at how long they've been doing HS2, and they're still delayed and overrun, and costs have gone here and there, so yeah. I don't have much faith in the British government getting these things done, which is why I don't support something like this. A number 10 source said that Mr Johnson was keen to promote major infrastructure projects and to advance the cause of cementing the union, but was waiting to see the feasibility assessment results. Which, I'm sure it would be feasible, but it's just about how much money it's going to cost to get it done. And then whatever figure they give you, you need to add like double, triple or quadruple it, and then you might be closer to the real sum. So while it may appear that Boris Johnson is getting Brexit done, or at least trying to, he might also be trying to waste a fuckload of our money. Not just on HS2, but also this bridge. I guess we will just have to wait and see.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.
Ramon! Ramon!